You know, Martine, last time we saw each other was in the forest of the Northwest Amazon. And we've heard so much about the melting of polar ice caps and the inundation of Pacific islands and the impact on coastlines and coral reefs, but people aren't speaking or thinking as much about the impact of climate change on the Amazon.
Well, it's a very serious matter in the sense that 75% of the models now made about the Amazon, or the models that study the Amazon and climate change, show that we could well have a savanization coming all the way from the southeast part right up to the northwest, stopping around Manaus. But that would easily be in the next 50 years, 50% of the Amazon could go.
So it would be transformed to savanna?
It would be transformed to savanna, and the Amazon is 20% of our fresh water. The Amazon is 2/3 of biodiversity in the world. And if the planet doesn't have biodiversity, it won't be able to adapt to climate change. The whole resilience of the planet. It's like as if we had half of our liver and half our kidneys lost.
So many indigenous people, both in mountains and in the forest, actually have this kind of reciprocal engagement with the earth, whereby they feel both that the earth nurtures them, but they have obligations in turn for the earth. And so it must be a psychological jolt not to be able to kind of explain what's going on.
It's not only psychological, it is, but at the same time, they are very aware they are part of the universe. The universe is a subject, not an object. Nature is not there to be used. Nature is there as the basis of life, and they're only part of that system. And therefore the Indians and the indigenous people are more concerned of, and it sounds a bit like Kennedy, what can I do for nature more than what can nature do for me, right? They are aware if nature doesn't survive, they won't survive. It has to do with a whole way of living, of being, of sharing, of flowing with nature.
It's so true. I mean, sometimes when you hear about these deliberations and the standoffs and the political impasses, you know, it just makes you think that people have just not gotten the message.
We see it as a resource. Then you're saying something completely different. We are part of this. And it's as simple as that. If the whole doesn't survive, the part won't survive. And they're fully aware of that. And so it's not a question of just fixing your technology or something like that. It's giving priority to nature.
When you first went to the Amazon, things weren't anything like they are now, in the sense that, I mean, you went down and you did not find Indian communities happy in some sense. I mean, you went down in the immediate wake of the last years of what had almost been a Holocaust.
When I first went in, I remember coming into Mitu, a small town, and I met the bishop there. And I hadn't been in with the Indians. And he asked me what I was thinking, and I said, look, I'm going in, I want to learn from these people. I think their culture is great. I think they should keep their culture. I was talking about this. And he said, look, Martin, you're going against history. These people are going to be integrated. And I said, I can't go against history. History isn't written. We make history. Perhaps I've mentioned this to you. I remember meeting this Senchu Kubeo, an Indian there, and I asked him, what are you doing here? And he said, I'm paying for a sewing machine that I got for my wife, a pedal sewing machine. And I said, how long have you been doing this? I'm paying for it. And he said, 35 years.
35 years to pay off a pedal sewing machine?
Yeah. So then I discovered many Indians were in a similar situation. And so I committed myself to help them to get out of that situation. And little did I know it was a life commitment. And then I got involved talking about land, and then slowly, then I got into government, and slowly kind of an agenda that I built with them. In a way, life sort of took me along.
You just started with a simple sewing machine, getting a guy out of debt, peonage, and slavery, and before you know it, you've secured lands virtually the size of the United Kingdom in perpetuity for the Indian people. And I think sometimes people forget that life is really a series of steps. You know, and that as long as you make the right choices.
I didn't have a plan, but I had a belief, I had a cause. And this belief, and living with the people, and listening to the people, I think that one of the key things that has allowed me to walk forward in all this, or has taken me forward in all this, because in a way I feel that life thinks me, I mean, it sort of carries me through, is listening. And I think this is a little bit what I'm seeing here in Copenhagen. A lot of people are despairing and say, wow, it's the end of the world. It's up to us to implement in our daily life what we have to do. It's a bottom-up process.